And it's the finals! Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and every single pet that's out there watching in Twitch.tv land. We've got Abstract versus Put the Kettle On. I'm your boy F-Dot, and that's Anatoly.
Gonna be a grand finals best of 3, and these two teams, they're battling for a difference of $1,000. First place walks away with 2.5, while second place still good enough, 1.5 for them.
And of course, it all comes down to some extremely fun competition that we'll have a little bit later on. This, of course, was the Challenger Cup in the console world presented by FACEIT. And basically what happens is these two teams will go on to relegation and face some of our professional teams from the Smite console league. And whoever winds up on top there winds up being a pro themselves. But as Tolly said, we've got some money to wrap up right quick. So the finals are coming at you live from hi-rez Studios, and we're going to have it break down best of 3. Put Kettle On. We saw them earlier in the day. If you're just joining us, it was crazy. So much aggression, so much fighting, so many kills, so many objectives. Quite the opposite of the quiet, slower-paced match that we just watched.
Different change of pace for sure. However, it did go into 3 games for both sets. We see different styles develop between the 2 different sets as well. A lot of adaptation, I would say, as well.
A lot of Sobek. Certainly something that I'm going to be excited for. In fact, so much so, that complete jokes aside, that I'm curious as we get into picks and bans if we're actually going to see the respect ban.
That would be interesting because I'm more than positive that Put the Kettle was definitely watching that last set. So could see some insider strategies in terms of picks and bans. You know, normally whenever 2 teams battle against each other, they don't really have homework done if they've never faced each other, right? So they'll just do generic bans. But this next game, could see a Sobek ban.
Who knows? Well, the 5 players on the left side of your screen certainly do. Abstract will be headed to the finals versus Put Kettle On. And as we said, these teams have 2 very different styles of play. Abstract seem to realize that Put Kettle On want to be aggressive and go for those all-in, so no nemesis.
No nemesis. If they've watched the last set, though, they could see that the Awilix was just such a powerful asset for Kettle, so it could be a first pick potential for Abstract.
Definitely something to be thinking of at the very least. Raijin taken away, and Wukong. So pretty much what we were talking about earlier was that when it comes to the Challenger Cup as opposed to our pro leagues, the meta, outside of the obvious meta of Smite, is a little bit more, let's say, standard in that you don't know what your opponents necessarily will bring to the table like you were talking about. So instead, you see Fafnir, Raijin, Wukong, Nemesis, 4 bans that are generally one size fits all, if you will.
Bacchus is going to get locked in right away with the Fafnir being banned. Having a really great initiation, you can't really go wrong with this Bacchus pick.
Not at all. I mean, like I said, Nemesis sort of tilts your hand into one direction and says, hey, you want to play bursty. Bacchus seems like that, but Bacchus also has different applications. Doesn't always have to be played aggressive. In fact, a lot of times you'll see Bacchus played by teams that aren't aggressive in an effort to take it away from their opposition, which might be what Abstract is doing, and they will take the Sobek.
They got the Sobek. We saw Ezzuna the last game, just playing lights out on that. And I felt like the first 3 picks was almost deja vu compared to the second game of the first set, except it was the Fafnir instead of the Bacchus. I like the idea, though, that Kettle has, yet again, Neith, Soul, and still sticking to their guns with the Awilix.
And anytime you can get the Awilix against Bacchus is always strong. I mean, cut and dry. Bacchus wants to initiate by jumping in on you and causing knockups. If he jumps and you pull, well, he doesn't get the knockups. He's just behind enemy lines. So pretty much one of the stronger classic counters in the world of Smite. Guan Yu, well, just too strong of a god. Freya and Apollo. Now, Apollo, Put Kettle On watch some Apollo.
They definitely did, and they didn't want to deal with the global pressure that the Apollo can bring, especially when you already have a Neith. So let's take away some more global pressure that you don't have to worry about. The Neith just wants to sit in lane, farm as much as she can, get the Transcendence online, transition in towards that mid game, not having to worry about the Apollo puts the duo lane in a pretty decent spot.
The tier selection out of Abstract, a little bit interesting. 0% ban here in our console Challenger Cup. We'll see if that was the idea. Put Kettle On played some different things in the solo lane, more towards the lines of Guardians, in all honesty, but did show that Sun Wukong that they'll select for this time around. So Abstract, they've got 2 shots to round out their comp.
Sun Wukong was a really good pick for them the last game against Neith's minions. However, picking it in this position before the last pick allows Abstract to maybe find a right idea towards dealing with it in the early game.
Might just be. We'll take a look. Vulcan has been very successful here in general. This mage, honestly, is just a fine pick. I love it. I think there's a lot of options that Vulcan can bring. And while the ultimate seems very simple in the Bacchus belly flop into Vulcan ultimate and then bang, there's a whole bunch of damage, I think that in all honesty, Vulcan has a lot of different applications. He does very well when it comes to zoning. He does very well when it comes to objective secure. He just checks a lot of boxes.
And I like the comp out of Abstract. We look at it here. So many knockups. Bacchus, Susano, Typhoon, Sobek, and Vulcan. There's just so much displacement out of this team composition. So Kettle has to be so careful in the mid game. One knockup into late game Vulcan or Rama, that could be a free kill.
I agree, but I love the selection from PutKettleOn. You've got the Awilix to neutralize the enemy initiation coming out of Bacchus, and then Ares. What an excellent choice. Ares cripple against the enemy team. No charge prey, no nonsense from Susano, no backfire coming out of the mid laner, no initiation, even can neuter some of what Ram wants to do. I think the Ares selection here, Toli, was, I mean, there never is a perfect selection, but as close as you can get to it.
It's actually brilliant holding on to their Guardian pick. I didn't expect it to work out as well as it has been on paper, at least for now. We'll see if that they can actually apply this in-game.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, normally we see that the last pick saved for a solo laner most usually, and then occasionally sometimes the jungle, but I think somewhere around the third pick that PutKettleOn started thinking about the Ares, and they said, hey, maybe we'll wait for this. Let's send Wukong. That's a pretty safe, you're not going to counter Wukong anytime soon, right? It'll just stalemate a lane at worst. So let's pick Wukong and see where they go, and maybe we can get the okie doke pick with the Ares. Love it.
Definitely. The Ares in the early game against this Bacchus and this Ram. Bacchus won't really be able to initiate, or if he does initiate, the counter engage coming out of the dual lane of Kettle is just going to be really devastating.
Which is something that we saw in our in the semifinals match between Kettle and their opponent that they skipped to make it here. KettleOn is a team that, sure, they're fine if they need to initiate, but they seem very comfortable being the counter initiators, which is, I don't know, I don't want to say odd, it's just certainly something that you take note of when you watch a team. It's almost as if they prefer to be jumped on and then respond.
It's all about the timing. If you can find the right gank when all the abilities were already used, then that's the perfect timing, because you can take advantage and land all your abilities, because of the fact that the first primary initiators would have more than likely had to overextend slightly.
Use all of their abilities, use the HP as well. No surprise here that the push going the way of the red team. Neith just fantastic when it comes to clearing waves, and, well, Ram, not so much.
And Kettle seems to do a consistent strategy where they rotate the soul laner over to those mid harpies and then go back a little bit delayed afterwards.
It doesn't always work out, but occasionally it allows the team to pick up those right-hand harpies, and then if there is a fight over them, they'll obviously take the win. What winds up happening is it usually puts this team behind in the soul lane a little bit, but after watching the game play, Mango Man has been able to sort of deal with that deficit and winds up making it about even pretty soon.
It's a really good idea to do that as a warrior against a Sobek in the soul lane, because he can't really apply too much pressure on you in the early phases of the laning phase. You can't really clear the wave with your two primary abilities as Sobek at level 3, so as a result, you're going to have to hold this wave under your tower and absorb all this damage. Look at this, with a Tiger Stun, already less than half.
Yeah, this is something that we're going to see Sun Wukong really work for. I mean, Wukong is a god of poke, really. That's how he's sort of intended to be played in this lane, right? You just smack with the stick over and over again, and as you clear the wave, see what you can do to the opposition, whereas Sobek, he's more looking to clear the wave first and then provide the poke.
The dual lane Ares is a little low, but you always have to respect the fact that he lands those 3 chains, you're going to die. But look at that, the Rama rolls in, Airbrushd coming in with the jet stream, finding the pull, and that's going to be first blood on CobbY.
Nice play out of the jungle. Very clean and clear for Airbrushd. No problem really at all. Level 4 coming in, picking up that kill, puts him to level 5. Neith will reach level 5 as well, but the enemy duo lane not too far behind. Oh, Neith did not reach level 5. My mistake. Both players level 4 at the moment, but inevitably these next few waves will put everybody up to that ultimate level.
as soon as CobbY dies, the Neith gets the solo experience and farm. So she does at level 5. The World Weaver could be used here in the mid or in the solo lane, deciding on how aggressive Kettle wants to be.
Right now, I think it'd be problematic for her to drop into that ultimate just since she's alone. Easy to see a Bacchus belly flop into some other damage should she start channeling that ultimate, which is why we see a little bit more reserved play. But as you were saying, PutKettleOn is without a doubt an extremely offensive team, and we'll certainly be looking for those plays earlier than you might expect.
Exactly. We see the Ares with the blink already at level 1. Sometimes we see Guardians, or rather usually we'll see them with a shell, the sprint, trying to maybe sustain the laning phase with a meditation even, but there's just no holding back for PutKettleOn. They really want the blink initiation for this Ares once he hits 5. He wants to be able to force those relic cooldowns as soon as possible.
And really, I mean, that's the ideal play out of Ares, in all honesty, right? Some other Guardians can be a little bit more defensive with their peel or protection, thinking more like Geb and Sylvanas, but at the end of the day, Ares is nothing if not a damage source and a relic gripper.
Didn't we see Raffer play Ares game 5 against enemy?
Yes, we did.
Played pretty well.
Yes, he did.
Gotta give credit to Raffer on the Ares.
Absolutely. I mean, Ares is a choice that, like, even going way back when, Ares was never a, I'll say, good selection as a Guardian way back when in Smite, but you still saw people play it when they wanted to play a specific strategy. Now, I think the Guardians in today's meta are a little bit closer in that you could generally play whichever one you feel like, but still to this day, Ares represents a very specific gameplay style.
It's all about the aggression, especially if you're going to run the Ares in the solo lane trying to fish for some early game kills.
Exactly, and that blink just allows Ares to really continue on doing what Ares wants to do. He's going to be able to be defensive, like all that we mentioned earlier on with respects to the cripple, but that blink, that ultimate, those pulls, that's really what the players are looking for.
So both teams just kind of feeling each other out at the moment after that first blood in the duo lane. Coming up at the 5-minute mark, pretty good vision for both teams, I would say, around Gold Fury. Looking at the relics, however, there's a Wrath on Abstract, and because of the blink idea that Ares decided to run, there's no contention for that pre-level 12 relic.
Yeah, we won't see much of that, if at all. Naaaarrrk gets tricked out. I think he wanted to take that fight in the jungle, but couldn't decide which direction to go. Instead, we'll just take a couple of basics for his trouble.
And Neith, level 8 with Transcendence finished, about 13 stacks. Will definitely win these trades as long as she's able to land those spirit arrows. Any sort of poke that the Rama does this early on, we're definitely going to get it. In mid lane, however, we're going to find an early kill. Soul finding Airbrushd.
Ult for an ult as well. Bacchus stuck under the tower. Will have to jump, but gets grabbed. Auzrik out of the sky takes out DineOhSaw. Well played.
And this is something that we see Guardians try to adapt to because of the fact that it's a clear-cut counter. Bacchus getting pulled by Awilix. Some players on the Bacchus will run the Purification in that spot.
I mean, Bacchus was the original Guardian that really got stuck buying beads. Even before, years ago when Bacchus would get played, you would still see beads on the character because his only initiation leaves him toolless behind enemy lines, and you sometimes need those purifications in order to be able to exit. Now, introduce a character like Awilix, who's a hard counter to Bacchus. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind, Tolly, that once Bacchus hits level 7, we're going to see DineOhSaw pick up Purification.
Oh, absolutely. He has to try to negate some sort of aggression coming out of Kettle. They have the Ares and the Awilix that's going to counter him. So coming up at level 12 even, I wouldn't be surprised maybe if that's the second relic that Bacchus would have to lean on.
Yeah, exactly. Just such a classic one, especially when there's an Ares in the other lane. However, we haven't seen PutKettleOn's matched aggression. Like right here, I would expect a blink in Ares ultimate just to see what can happen. But certainly, team has cooled down a little bit since their semifinal match, I would say.
In the dual lane, the Rama has been a little bit behind, struggling about a level to level and a half, just now hitting level 9, whereas this Neith is still very content with trying to play aggressive, knowing the fact that she has the Unravel, and it's the early game to the point where the Susano is still trying to farm instead of gank.
Right, one gank was nice, but he's going to have to continue on across the rest of the map. Mid lane seems to be where a lot of the action is concerned. Left side, 4 players from Abstract grouped up, and they're going to leave the Harpy there. They got one mid Harpy, just one.
That's surprising. Rama even rotated. He has to come back quickly, though, if he doesn't want to lose that wave under his tower. So this is going to allow the Neith to start making an aggressive rotation, and maybe Kettle can find a pick here.
Abstract now, yeah, they're getting chased out. I think Kettle, everyone knew that Kettle wanted to find a pick, but Abstract wanted no part of it. Aries now getting aggressive. Not just yet.
Wants to wait for that prime and ripe opportunity. The blink is on cooldown for the Aries, so he's going to wait for that big important relic cooldown before he decides to take the first step.
We'll have to see what happens. As soon as that relic comes off cooldown, I'm going to keep an eye on it. 90 seconds, so about a minute and a half. But for right now, PutKettleOn. There's that early game aggression we were talking about. DineOhSaw walked past here, not even expecting to see 4 players on this. There's the belly flop into the burp, not the intoxicate. Instead saves it, and Abstract gets the steal. Bloakley's also going to get a kill as well. DineOhSaw chains his abilities correctly and effectively and takes away the Gold Fury.
I like the idea of using the Aries Nopal as Airbrushd, diving that tier 2 tower, finding CobbY. So Abstract getting 3 kills and stealing the gold if you're putting them in a really great spot. They were a little bit behind because of the aggression from Kettle, but now with that play, they're definitely back in it to win it.
I mean, the story is told on the graph right there. Evenly traded out. You can see that jump up front. That's going to be your Gold Fury and a couple of the kills afterwards. And then, after many shots, the tier 1 tower in the mid lane goes down at about 9 minutes. So Abstract leading this one by a small margin, but still leading nonetheless, 700 gold.
So I like the idea that the Aries had trying to pull the Bacchus away to prevent the Intoxicate, because what happened there was they saw the Susano on the right-hand side of the map, and that's where the Wrath was for Abstract. They weren't worried about the steal except for the Intoxicate. So all Kettle really had to do was CC the Bacchus away before, or to reset the Gold Fury, kill the Bacchus, and unfortunately, the timing of the Bacchus Intoxicate was just spot on coming out of DineOhSaw.
It was really fun, too, watching DineOhSaw, because usually it's just belly flop Intoxicate while everybody's still knocked up in the air. But he realized that the kill threshold wasn't there. Certainly is for Auzrik, as he takes out the kill in the solo lane. So instead, he saves the Intoxicate and brings out the burp, just waiting to see how low the Gold Fury will go down, and then as soon as he understands, bam, goes the ultimate, and that secures the Gold Fury. Just well executed.
But look at the graph, honestly. Abstract and PutKettleOn, they are still pretty even despite Abstract getting the Gold Fury and the tier 1 mid tower.
Mm-hmm. And you know, a lot of that coming out from Abstract was the ability to go ahead and take that Gold Fury. But like you said, the response back from PutKettleOn certainly available there.
It's just the farming, honestly. They've been able to constantly push this Rama. He's just now hitting level 12. The Neith has been level 13 for a little bit. The Wukong is in the same spot as compared to the Sobek. Just a slight level advantage between the side lanes of Kettle versus Abstract.
And the jungle specifically as well. There's about a level and a half difference between them. And more importantly, the gold, you can see just now shortened to about 300 as Susano picks up a small camp, or the right side Harpies. But we were seeing a larger lead earlier on, and something I want to bring up on the right side of the map, you see a solo lane tower has been taken. Mango Man on the Sun Wukong certainly doing very, very well, stripping the experience, the gold, and now the tower from the Sobek.
You're doing a good job poking and not wanting to overextend.
Right.
Because of how close she is under that tower. Don't really know where the Vulcan is at, but really good vision coming out of the side of Abstract. They have sentry wards passively, making sure that there's no aggressive wards coming out of Kettle.
And that'll prevent any surprise ganks, really, coming out from the guys on Abstract. As long as Kettle have their wards there, they're completely in the know with what's going to be coming towards them. Airbrushd will drop some vision of his own and really just dancing around this Gold Fury. Not even on the map just yet, but teams still want to have availability to the routes on that left side of the map, whether it be to the mid lane or to the left side. Mid lane, shells popped, and Bacchus going to get dragged on in. Should he jump, he'll get pulled. And instead, he'll drop his own Intoxicate, setting Awilix packing. Well done by the support.
Perfect.
And Awilix has to go Hearth.
Perfect disengage out of the Awilix just in time. And I love the setup that Abstract had. The double knockup from the Typhoon, which set up the Vulcan ultimate. Unfortunately, they didn't have that last hit to confirm Auzrik.
It could have gone the other way as well if the damage didn't send Auzrik outside of the team fight. All of a sudden now you're going to see the pull out of the Bacchus and a dead support most likely. So good target priority prioritization specifically on that Awilix, and I'd love to see Abstract focus on that.
And both junglers are currently focused on the dual lane. They're just waiting around the corner, waiting for the first hunter to make the primary move and then jump in for that counter engage.
Doesn't look like either of them will get what they came for, however. Awilix sitting in the jungle with Ram, giving thought to backing on his tower.
And by sitting there, you're not only allowing this Neith to concede, you're basically allowing the Neith to 1v1, because anyone that's going to rotate towards the dual lane, you're basically creating that wall and preventing any sort of assistance. So you're continuing your advantage in the dual lane as a result.
Right, so anybody that shades over, you're going to effectively intercept in the role of that Awilix, so nobody can really come and bother your friend over here. It's like, hey, my friend is bullying this left lane. If you want to get through, if you want to get there, you got to go through me first. And just having that buffer really allows Neith to be as aggressive as she has been. And that's what we've seen out of PutKettleOn, both in this short one, 13:37 on the clock. And in the semifinals earlier on, right, we saw just pure aggression coming out from PutKettleOn, and they were never punished, despite always being on that like 75% mark on the lane, because no one knew where Auzrik was. If you're just joining us, he played Awilix twice, and then he played a Hun Bats, and both these characters really punish you for trying to gank his hunter.
It definitely fits his style from what it seems. He's not afraid to make that move and commit to one side lane or another. If he moves to one side lane, he's at least going to get something out of it. The last time he was in the dual lane, which is about a minute ago, he stripped the red buff away from Bloakley. So this puts Abstract in this little awkward position where the red buff will be available for the mid mage out of KettleOn, but not for Abstract.
Gold Fury is going to be available for Abstract right now. There's a lot of damage, and of course, don't forget, you've got the old Wrath. That one will go the way of Abstract one more time. Ultimate out of the Ares. Will pull a whole bunch of players, but really just get himself into trouble. Naaaarrrk gets the ultimate out of the left side of the map and secures the kill.
So Wukong with teleport, electing not to use it quite yet. Still pushing up that side lane on the right-hand side. Level 17 as a result. So Gold Fury being snuck. I like the play coming out of Ares. Unfortunately, just nobody in position to really capitalize off that. That could have been 2 or 3 easy kills.
Abstract's Wrath on Susano. That is 100% what is keeping them in the fight. I won't even say the jungler himself. Airbrushd had a fantastic first blood gank onto the left side hunter, but just he's been able to provide the Wrath. That's really all he needs to do as DineOhSaw gets taken out. And that's what's allowed Abstract to really stay in this game. The 2 Gold Furies, one that they stole and one that they confirmed themselves.
But they're still having a little bit of difficulty. You would think that they'd be up a little bit more than they currently are. Barely up about 200-300 gold. Their tier 1 mid tower is about to get taken out, and now Kettle is still on the aggressive side.
So it's interesting. I think we're seeing 2 different games here, Anatoly. I think PutKettleOn is playing better lane Smite, and Abstract is playing better objective Smite. And what does that mean? That means that PutKettleOn, they're able to take out these towers. You can see a tier 1 tower in the mid, a tier 1 tower on the right side. Wukong still pushing this tower down like he's part of a wrecking crew. Meanwhile, Abstract, they've been on their back foot when it comes to laning phase, but they've gotten both Gold Furies, and they're more than willing to sneak out these kills in the jungle.
The problem is if there's no defense from Abstract, they're just going to keep falling behind experience-wise.
Well
But a
played.
nice knock-up setting up that Vulcan ult.
Just the perfect alley-oop, the 1-2 punch. That allows the ultimate to come through, and Airbrushd does it the old-fashioned way, just beats down Ares during the ultimate. Can't find the hit on the runaway Neith, but teams pretty much got what they came for. 7 kills in total for Abstract. Bacchus still giving chase, but he's by himself, so we'll likely see him turn back around. It's all about the blue team right now, not as far as the lead is concerned, but Abstract feels like they have the momentum.
This is the position where you're going to need your Sun Wukong to start making rotations. You're level 18. You're about to finish off the Transcendence as he finally does teleport. A little bit too late before that team fight happened, but either way, because you have that tier 1 solo tower, there is no reason for you to be here on the right-hand side anymore. You need to start making a presence known in the game.
And that's what we see the Sun Wukong opt to do. Mango Man and his level 18 Sun Wukong looking to make an impact on the left side. Sneaks over back to the mid as he sees the rotation from Sun Wukong has been, or rather Susano has been made. He wants to go ahead and keep this side of the map as safe as possible.
And if they could still keep forcing team fights, Kettle has the advantage. This Susano just now hitting level 14. Some Wukong can just penetrate that backline without much contention. This Typhoon doesn't do that much damage compared to the members of PutKettleOn, as they're about to all hit level 17. Soul is 15, the Awilix is 16.
The Typhoon is more of a setup, just like we saw the perfect setup from the Bacchus belly flop into the ultimate out of Vulcan. Expect to see similar things with respect to how Susano chooses to use his ultimate. You can see smack dab in the middle as far as the player damage concerned, except he's still 3, 1, and 2. Good slash line because of his good involvement of the team, able to find those knockups and set the teammates up for the damage.
Now the question is, how is Abstract going to use that advantage to start knocking off some of these towers? Because they only got the tier 1 mid currently. Sure, they got the 2 Gold Furies, but this Sobek is not really going to help you push in the soul lane. He needs to be a factor in these teamfights, controlling some space while you have your Bacchus potentially peeling for your own backline. The Vulcan is going to have to hit some serious shots if he wants to win these teamfights in the mid game.
Right, we saw last set with Abstract against Battalion that Ezzuna pretty much was one of the only aggressive players on the map at that point in time, and Abstract was playing a very passive team in Battalion. PutKettleOn, pretty much the direct opposite of passive. Ooh, Mango Man in some trouble. Should be able to get out thanks to a smart usage of the ultimate.
There are 4 members waiting for him to land down. The Bacchus burp not going to connect. Neither is that pluck from Ezzuna, so scot-free goes Mango Man.
And the Sobek still continuing to be aggressive, but not as aggressive as you saw in game number 1. Here, he's on the bottom of his team's player damage before he was top overall. Damage onto the Neith shield backflip basically into players, but everybody but Ezzuna gets grabbed out. There's a knock forward. Ezzuna takes out the Neith. Big burst coming out from the Guardian ult.
Sanctuary was available for the Neith. I'm surprised she didn't use it to counter lurking in the water. Just like that, another important target down on the side of KettleOn. Without the Soul and the Neith, you don't have the DPS necessary to hold these towers and win these team fights. So as a result, KettleOn doing the right thing. It's split push, and look at the right-hand tower. That's going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned all the time, sometimes you can't take these fights directly head-on, applied directly to the battlefield. So this time, we're going to see PutKettleOn going for the split push, and this is successful and fantastic. Not just a tier 1 tower on the right-hand side, but also likely to be a tier 2 tower on the mid as well. But tier 2 tower on the left and a Gold Fury versus tier 2 tower on the right and half of one in the mid lane. I don't know how that goes, totally.
I mean, Ezzuna is going to try to stop the tier 2 in the mid, but it's going to be a lot of damage coming out of this Awilix. I don't think that he can stop it, but the World Weaver should allow for maybe a nice kill.
Yeah, the help from Neith and a couple of basics, and ooh, not enough. Smooth exit from the Awilix, but all things told, that tower is there by a hair. Awilix is going to pay with her life. That's unfortunate. 10 kills on the side of Abstract. However, that tower has no HP. That'll be another 1,500 gold should it fall down. But for now, Abstract have the lead in spades. 3,000 gold going the way of the blue squad. 10-4, read the kills as we just passed 20 minutes.
It's still a very close game at the 21-minute mark. Both teams are going to have to start transitioning over towards this Fire Giant already. Gold Fury is down. The tier 2s are down in the dual lane for KettleOn. So it could be potentially a strategy where the Neith will sit in that lane for a little bit longer, just finishing off the Chin size now. And these team fights have to be a little bit more calculating out of KettleOn. They forced that tier 1 tower on the left, and then they were forced to retreat. They were caught in a really awkward position because the Susano used that Typhoon to cut off the Soul and the Neith. The Sobek covered the option for the Neith, and I think that the Neith honestly thought she was going to die no matter what she did, so opted to save that important Sanctuary relic.
I mean, it was pretty much cut and dry. Like we saw the Sanctuary usage before Bacchus intoxicates, right? And in all honesty, that's something that I usually would have drawn attention to it because it was a misplay, but it just doesn't matter when Rom's able to seal the deal for you. I think that's the type of Sanctuary use we would have seen out of the Neith if she had activated it. All right, your life gets extended for a couple more seconds, and you're dead anyway, so no big deal. Quite a different story for the jungler. Airbrushd just take it out 2v1.
Airbrushd sacrificing his life to allow a 4-on-3 in the mid lane for Abstract. A lot of damage towards this tower as Naaaarrrk is just pummeling it away. No real contention. CobbY just running away because Ezzuna in the back zoning with lurking in the water.
Just well done by all these players. You saw Airbrushd. Airbrushd gave his life for the team. I think that was an important thing that you mentioned. Airbrushd heads over to the right-hand side to draw other players so his team can have a numbers advantage in the mid lane. And then, as you noted, Ezzuna just successfully zoning players out exactly the way a solo laner should.
All about the numbers game in this stage. You have to make sure that if you're going to get a kill, you have to get something out of it, right? Or the same exception goes when you're giving up a life in response, and that's exactly what Abstract did. PutKettleOn not really able to respond currently as Susano has just revived. PutKettleOn, they had the option to maybe go for a fire jump, but they were too low at the time after that tier 2 push. They had to reset and they had to heal.
Yeah, just not enough players there. Now we'll see it happen. And there's a ward dropped right in front of Naaaarrrk, but doesn't have the tools available. He's going to go ahead and back, and maybe he'll just buy a sentry.
It's always the right idea when you see a ward being placed in front of your face, especially if you see that it's a sentry ward. That makes your investment of that 120 gold that much more valuable.
Right, because not only, I mean, you're going to get the 50 gold for killing the ward, but more importantly, you're shutting down the opponent.
Exactly, so a little bit more economical advantage going your way. A lot of wards on the side of Fire Giant for PutKettleOn, though.
Makes sense. PutKettleOn certainly realized, and I think that's sort of what why this team has been so successful as Airbrushd finds himself, ooh, not quite dead just yet. Good stun coming out from the support, and that'll save the life of the Susano. I think that goes to show what type of game that PutKettleOn has really been playing here, Tolly, in that they realize that they've lost the objective game pretty hard. So when it comes to the Gold Furies, it's like, all right, those Gold Furies were necessary and you've kept in line with us. In fact, you have a lead on us. But Fire Giant will likely just lead to our demise. So we're not going to allow that to happen. And all the vision on the right side of the map belongs to PutKettleOn.
And like we mentioned about the counter engage, PutKettleOn has a very scary counter engage with this Ares Blink initiation. So if Abstract is going to force any objective, whether or not it's gold or fire, you're going to be relatively grouped, and that's prime real estate for a Blink Ares.
And that's what we've had since minute 1. You can see Ares actually went the way of sprint as well. And, you know, talking about the Bacchus' relics, I sat here and I guaranteed that you'd see a purification. And we just don't. Instead, it's the med.
Maybe he wants to get pulled. He wants all those cooldowns to be put onto himself instead of his teammates. So that's the right idea by going the shell and the meditation. You'll absorb the cooldowns, you'll sustain back up, and then the rest of your team is going to follow up.
And usually what happens is when a Guardian does that, they get into trouble because that's the only initiation. There's no other players to peel. But you've got Ezzuna on this Sobek, so certainly a lot of options available should that Guardian go down first. You've got a second one in the pocket.
Ezzuna taking a lot of poke, forced to retreat, ate more than half of his health as CobbY's going to stop it, however, but no one else really to follow up. Good zoning coming out of DineOhSaw.
Nice knockup as well. Just a little bit of poke going back and forth, folks. Nothing too committal from either team.
Could be an advantage for PutKettleOn if they saw that Ezzuna did have to back. Unfortunately for them, they didn't see him back over a ward, so it's just going to still play pretty aggressive in the jungle side.
Yeah, Ezzuna just wanted to go ahead and back and finish up that spirit robe that allows him to do what he may. There's a blink, and it's coming out from a Sobek. Ezzuna trying to find a target, but goes right on past immediately into the waters, and Abstract now trying to make a play from the left-hand side. Auzrik going to be safe and sound as he exits, but Mango Man, on the other hand, taking a lot of damage, already having to use his ultimate. You can see that decoy on the front side of your screen. Vulcan ultimate brings everybody very low, and Airbrushd, the first one to start with a kill, but Auzrik answers back. Each jungler has 1 kill per in this engagement.
So lane for support currently. Naaaarrrk in a very awkward position as Auzrik from behind, forcing 2 sanctuaries. Airbrushd gonna barely escape from that.
They both took each other down. Only the 2 junglers who start the fight kill each other. Hilariously so. It's going to be a 2-for-2 exchange. One of the solo, one of the jungle, and then the jungle and the support.
Neith still has World Weaver. Bloakley doesn't have Sanctuary, so it's going to be a little bit of a dancing game between these two. One meatball is just going to devastate this Neith. However, at the flip side, a World Weaver and a Root can spell the demise to Bloakley as well.
Yeah, Neith, I think, a little bit more scared than the Vulcan. She's going to run away into the mid lane. Vulcan, on the other hand, walking directly at this Neith. No, he's got the Sobek in tow. Roots missed. Sobek looking for a pluck. Finds the dash, but not the target. Those have not been on point for Ezzuna today.
But it doesn't really matter at this stage. Even if he plucks and misses, he doesn't overextend to the point where he'll just die. We saw him do that at the Fire Giant. So many cooldowns were used on him, and he still walked away with half health.
But yeah, he just barely got out of there.
Also, you don't really want to overextend too many abilities on a Sobek at this stage because you always have to worry about this Vulcan ult. Looking at the player damage, we saw him around the middle of the pack, a little lower than the middle of the pack, and now he's starting to slowly climb. And at the later stage of the game goes, this Vulcan's really going to shine.
Cute Gold Fury coming out from Abstract, and I mean, that is just, I mean, that was a cute Gold Fury. They started it, Vulcan puts his turret down, and then literally backs in the face of the opponent. Gold Fury goes away with Abstract to continue their lead, 6,000 gold, so.
You have to make sure that if you're going to do Gold Fury at this stage, that you have vision of the enemy team, or you have backup. In that situation, Ram had the Sobek, Neith had nobody.
Right now, it looks like Wukong has nobody. Animals on cooldown, forced into the ultimate right away. 3 players grab with the chains. 2 players will get grabbed, and the ultimate from Soul does a ton of damage, but Mango Man already out of the ult, finds a stun, looking for more, knocked up and pulled back, but Mango Man, Jingle Bang, takes out Bloakley.
Not going to roll in to confirm Mango Man as CobbY is going to have to run away. The sprint is popped. Ezzuna trying to lead the charge. Naaaarrrk was trying to find the through the wall shot, but not going to connect. Ezzuna wants this soul so badly.
No cooldowns available. 2 seconds till anything comes up. And with that chain, that's a good play. Knock up and sickening striking too long. And the ultimate hit. Gonna be fine. I thought that Phoenix was gonna take one more shot.
I thought so too. Sobek barely escaping with his life, but he's distracted Kettle for so long that this Fire Giant by Abstract is already going down for free. And at this stage, coming up at the 30-minute mark, Abstract is in complete control.
5 minutes ago, we said PutKettleOn and learn, or I said PutKettleOn and learn from the earlier stages. They said, all right, these Gold Furies have been problematic. We're going to pepper the right side of the map with so many wards that will never, ever be caught without any vision. Abstract took note, whether or not they took note or just kind of got lucky, all of the vision falls off on the right side. That's when Abstract make their move. You know, you get lucky if 1 or 2 wards fall down. If all of the wards on the right side of the map fall down before you make your objective push, I gotta say, I think that's Abstract taking note.
They're definitely making sure that they punish any sort of misstep from Kettle, because there was a huge team fight where the Awilix was doing a great job in the backline, but they just couldn't confirm the kill onto the Vulcan. Forced out those double Sanctuaries, which was a really nice play, but not finding those kills allowed Abstract to stay in these team fights and just basically scare everyone away from Kettle, especially when you have an angry Croc chasing you down a lane.
Absolutely. I mean, just sitting there in the mid lane, doing exactly what Sobek needs to do. Knock people up, punch people around. Sitting number 3 on the player charts, Sobek has been pretty effective in this match so far, to say the least.
And Abstract's going to be pretty effective at about taking this last remaining tier 2 tower. Want to figure out the right way to get this Phoenix Siege. Going to force out Mango's ulti, which is a perfect start towards the Siege.
Yeah, nice and early. Mango Man's ultimate already used. While he's sitting up there in the cloud, everybody starts to get aggressive. There's the kill by Bloakley. Great ultimate, and everybody going to get grabbed up by the Vulcan. Flip back and done. And CobbY gonna sit down 1 more time. 3 players alive with PutKettleOn above their names, but the Phoenix falls down, and Abstract will look for the kills instead of the objectives.
Yeah, finding that plug was really nice, but he might sacrifice his life. The Supernova does confirm, so it is going to be a 3-on-4 members having the Fire Giant. Instead, now they're going to opt to swing on over towards the mid lane. Bacchus is going to tank it up against this 1 member. Awilix trying to figure out the right angle to hold this, but can't really do it alone.
Look how crafty Bacchus is being, knowing that Awilix's ultimate can ruin him, being very careful about that jump. Instead, finally uses it when she's otherwise occupied. Gets right on top, but the purification going to make her a little bit immune, so no big deal right there for Bacchus fans at home. Mid and right Phoenix down for the count. Left one still available, but Abstract will instead go into the jungle. As they're 10,000 gold up, they don't want to risk anything.
They want to spend all that important gold in hand for that last final push. The Fire Giant, they still have the Fire Giant for about, I want to say, 2 more minutes. This Rom sitting at about 2,000 gold now. He's going to be able to do so much damage to the front line coming out of Kettle.
And we've already seen a little bit of it so far. Ram has been pretty instrumental in finding these kills, 707, and like I said, in finding these specific kills, he uses his astral arrows to get through the players that are trying to body block and then rotates and tries to roll behind enemy lines, and that's what's made him so successful thus far.
And with his build on the Wind Demon, that Deathbringer, he's going to be able to not only chase people down, but he's going to kite. So anybody that's committed towards him, especially if it's going to be this Awilix, has to be careful. Look at that, just getting one shot by Bloakley that turns the corner.
Exactly. The damage that comes out of the Vulcan in the late game is really just not something that you can match. And then Ram, you saw it. 3 shots, and then Awilix was already down.
That was a really awkward positioning to be as Awilix, because obviously this is the last remaining Phoenix you have, so therefore they're definitely coming to push this last remaining one.
And this push might be the game, folks. We'll see how well PutKettleOn does as far as defense is concerned. Vulcan completely off the mark, not going to be there whatsoever, but the Phoenix already down. Shazzy falls down. Trouble for CobbY as he's underneath the waters. Ezzuna slowing everyone down, and it'll pop underneath the Titan, and it's taking aggression. PutKettleOn on their back foot. Abstract look like they're going to take game number 1.
And it's a beautiful play out of Abstract compared to their last set. There was such a slower pace set. Comparing these two teams, Abstract won in a very slow and steady manner, whereas we saw Kettle, they didn't take their foot off the gas.
No, in fact, we were watching the secondary semifinals. Well, you and I casted the first one, and then Adonis and Hinduman had the second set. We were watching that, and I said, Tolly, I'm expecting PutKettleOn to come through, play aggressive Smite, and just have Abstract or Battalion at the point, we didn't know who was going to win, have them just sort of sit and be surprised at how fast and lose because of it. But completely the opposite. Instead, Abstract on their game, ready to play as fast as they need to.
It was ever since that first Gold Fury steal by DineOhSaw, it just seemed that Abstract had the right possible positioning to be on top of every little thing. They stole this first Gold Fury around the 8.5 minute mark, which was beautifully done. Didn't even have Wrath on the Bacchus, just popped it with the Intoxicate. Unfortunately, didn't have the right CC to prevent that from Kettle.
Yeah, it was just understanding the situation with how low the Gold Fury actually was. Here, this is the style points that I said. Already the Gold Fury is low, and you see Bloakley just drop the turret and then back to base, having trust in his teammates to clean it up, and then up goes the Ram, and, well, down goes anybody else that's stuck in his crosshairs.
I'd say he had his item shop up, and he just didn't know.
The Vulcan?
Yeah, he was already ready to buy. He's
all right,
he's counting his gold, like, all right, I'm about to get 350 more golds, trying to buy the next item. Didn't even see the Neith.
Absolutely, just completely gone. Let Ram handle whatever nonsense needs to come through, and that winds up. Abstract is going to be 1 game up to none. Keep in mind, this is a best of 3 for our finals here at our Console League Challenger Cup presented by Faceit. You can see Abstract and Battalion fought pretty valiantly, stretching their series to 3, as did Nate's Minions and PutKettleOn. But that's how we wind up in the finals. So without further